My name is Nicholas Pacheco, and I'm going to be talking about how to implement change in the United States prison systems. Well, it is said that in order to truly know a nation, you must spend time behind its bars. A nation cannot be defined or judged by how they treat its highest class citizens, but based on how they treat its lowest. Wise words from a very wise man named Nelson Mandela, who once spent a very large majority of his life in the prison system. There is a reason as to why the United States holds the largest incarceration rate of 639 people to its every 100,000 that go through the prison system. Well, as United States citizens, we have failed to recognize one of the most important situations while focusing on minors. In order to truly be a prosperous nation, we must rehabilitate rather than punish. We must determine the reason for one's actions rather than making the reasons for their next crimes worse. We must compare, question, and determine how to effectively implement change where change is needed. Overall, it is the duty of the people to implement change when change is necessary, for the power lies in the people. We as the people need to compare prison systems with other thriving nations such as Norway. Up until today, or present day, the United States prison system has remained the same. It contains the idea that once someone has been caught for their crimes, they are put in prison and they serve their time in order to deter them from making such decisions again, or in order to keep them from making crimes all over. Well, we need to change the mindset of how we deter people from crime and recognize that the issue here isn't the people. It is how the people are treated in the prison system like animals, in which they return to crime because crime is what they know. Well, Halden Prison in Norway is known as one of the most humane prisons in the world. The goal of Halden is rehabilitation. Even the prison guards are trained to motivate, not intimidate inmates, and Halden is also a supermax. It is designed to hold Norway's worst offenders. So, how is it that a nation in which a supermax prison can offer better numbers than any regular prison in the United States? Well, here is the major reason. In 2018, a reporter named Jeremy Metcalf wrote from the perspective of a United States inmate, and the difference between Norway and the United States was apparent. In Metcalf's experiment, called The Marshall Project, he writes about his experience of being woken up at times such as 1:30 a.m. by shaking cell bars and bright lights in his eyes. He also started that after that fact with a body cavity search and a full strip down, which is dehumanizing people. And as one of the tasks, or one of his jobs at the prison, he is a part of the suicide task watching team, in which he is forced for 3 hours a day to watch an inmate and make sure that they don't kill themselves. And that seems pretty inhumane to me. And this is a common thing between many prisons across the nation. Many jails across the nation subdue their inmates to menial jobs such as metalworking and many similar tasks across the globe. But what Norway does is that it offers beneficial and rehabilitating tasks in order to better the inmate's mental state and overall quality of life. For example, they offer culinary classes and classes of the arts, including music classes. Not sure yet? Well, I think you should definitely be able to see a difference between the treatment already. The cells in Norway are also much nicer. Each inmate has his or her own toiletries, and prison systems in the United States and cells in the US can have up to 4 people in one prison cell, or at least 2 people, in which they are forced to share a toilet in the center of a room with no privacy whatsoever. Forced, yet again, dehumanizing the person inside the cell. In conclusion, when comparing the United States to Norway's prison system, there is a fine line between how each and every one of them is being treated. This is arguably the biggest reason as to why the United States prison system is no longer cutting it. In order to be better, there is no shame in using others as a guide for what may lead to the most favorable outcomes. And in this case, it would be using Norway's prison system as our own. So, how does a nation go about making changes? And which things do we change first? Well, the first step in change always has to be the biggest. In this case, we must find the first overall change in quality in life. The first step would be changing the cells from these inmates that are living in. And towards the end of the video, I'll have some videos of what Norway's prison cells look like in comparison to United States prison cells, and it's quite drastic. We must create a cell much like Norway's, in which each prisoner is given solitude and privacy without bars and without making them feel like animals. The items from the idea of changing in the mindset of prisoners and how they will live after they leave the prison is effective. If a person is treated like the scum of the earth for years on end, the person is more or less likely to be scum. But if the person were to be treated as someone who needed help, they may see and realize that society may be helpful and useful in a way, rather than treacherous and frightening. Next, we have to change the idea of treating prisoners like prisoners, but as people who need guidance. We must see them for more than what we see them as. We must give the prisoners more meaningful classes, things such as music classes, dance classes, art classes, and classes that are meant for rehabilitating a person, and not to diminish their time with menial tasks like metalworking or suicide watch teams, but finding other ways to implement change so that the prisoners aren't forced to avoid their daily tasks. To treat someone like an animal for large amounts of time is said to make them like an animal. But if people are treated for kindness, the person is more or less likely to pass on these traits on to another. Therefore, we need to change the cells for which these prisoners are living in and change the quality of life in which they are living in as well. If change is not made soon, the prison system in the United States will remain the same. We will still hold the highest incarceration rates globally. And since 1925, when our prison system was first established, our prison incarceration rate has also risen 100%. And state laws are a large majority for some of the longest incarceration times in general. We will still also hold the highest rate to crime rates as well. This number as of 2019 being 64%. That means that our prison system is not working. It means that 64%, that the majority of people who are going to prison are returning to a life of prisoners. And that our system at the moment is not producing a positive outcome, but a negative outcome. It's putting more criminals out there than it needs to be, or more criminals out there than are coming in. And Rikers Island is a perfect example of that. Rikers Island in New York holds short sentences for inmates that go into the system there, but it is infamous for systematic and inter-inmate abuse. Overall, if changes are not made, the United States citizens are held reliable for how bad our prisoners are treated and how badly they come out. We, the people, the system, are the reason for this inhumane way of treating the bad. We must compare the thriving systems of the New World, question how and why they are better, and change how our inmates are treated in order to affect how they are when they come out after having served their time. As the people, we are called in order to change crime rate and effectively create a healthier, more positive society. It is the choices each and every one of us makes today that determine the world we wish to live in for our predecessors and for ourselves. Thank you for listening to my speech. This is Nicholas Pacheco, and goodbye.